Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 7th of October 2024. There is a real emphasis of getting in and getting on with it this week, but also acknowledgement that that takes as long as it takes. That impatience there, that frustration there is almost coming from external forces, but that we need to be very comfortable with the information that's coming through first, and some may need to break that down into smaller, more manageable steps. It doesn't matter what angle we take this week, what's really important is our line of focus. I've adjusted my camera several times because I didn't want you to see what was behind me, that, you know, the scenes, what was going on in the background. And that can very much come to light this week. There are going to be things in the background that come to the surface to be seen, and we may not want to look at them, or we may want to look at them and break them down when we don't actually need to. What's important this week is, does it help us to maintain focus, or does it skew with the angle that we are trying to look at things from? Because ultimately there is only one thing that we need to be concentrating on, and that is how we see ourselves. I don't know about anyone else, and there is a real temptation to go into the depth and the story of everything, and it's not to say that it's not significant, but it's about becoming the medicine, not the stories that have helped us to remember that within us this week. I'm working with a herbal oracle deck, and there's a real need to cut through the overcomplication of things when working with plant medicine. And I don't mean just ingesting them, I mean connecting to them. They remind us of our roots, and that's what this week is all about. Anything that's happening externally is an opportunity to remember our roots. Why? Because a lot of us are going to be encouraged to see ourselves differently, not differently from who we are, but differently from how we have chosen, awkward, painful, triggering perhaps, but how we have chosen to see ourselves for whatever reason leading up to this week as we go into the 1010 portal. And it's that it's all about, although we are going into the Hermit year as well. There's a lot of information trying to come through all at once, and that can give us a bit of a headache. So it may be important this week to slow down, to be in your body and rectify what now resonates with you and what doesn't. There's going to be temptations to go back to old ways, particularly when it comes to selling ourselves short of who we actually are, whether that's work related or relationship related. And this week is an opportunity to say, that was then, this is now, this is what I'm choosing to take forward as we prepare to go into 2025. And gosh, there's some energy coming in, just as we realize, yes, the small steps are important, but that it's part of a far bigger vision and picture. That's when the energy starts to really come in. So honing back, focusing on our ability to hold space for that, focusing on what's relevant in the now. So let's do that. Today, the emphasis was very much on the focus of how we see ourselves. This week for me, I don't know about anyone else, but this week has been pretty intense with emotions. But underneath it all, there's been a recognition of a remembering even of what I can hold space for. Now, up until that point, the narrative that I can't hold space for what I'm feeling, or that it's too much, that it's all too big for me, has been needed for my own survival, has been needed for how I interact with others. It's been needed for the story that had to play out. This weekend I've been shown that it hasn't, and you may find that if you haven't already, that this week you're being shown stories that no longer are required as part of how you are seen, more importantly by yourself. Why? Because underneath it there's an encouragement as we lead into the latter part of the year to bring forth any strengths, any wisdom that we have gained, and in doing so release what no longer walks alongside that, what no longer supports our light to be shined. As we go into 2025, it is the Hermit year, but it's also the Moon year. So there's illusions there of how we see ourselves and the light that we are. And this quarter part of the year is an opportunity, with the emphasis of the Strength card energy and the Star card energy, to remember we are the vision that we are being asked to carry forward. It is how we see ourselves that will affect everything else around us. So this week in particular, with the 1010 portal, Don't jump ahead to the 11. It's not about bringing in new things. It's about completing cycles. It's about the full circle, the circle of life, the medicine wheel, if you will, recognizing where you are in your own stages and what needs to come to fruition and what needs to help you move forward through whatever you are going through right now. Underneath it all, yeah, the Hermit card is the star in his lantern. It's the vision that you hold of yourself. There's no point having these wonderful visions of the world you want to create or the relationships that you want or any of that if you see yourself as unworthy or if you see yourself as not being able to achieve that. So what do you need to align with your vision this week? It's going to be how you see yourself. And yes, there are going to be opportunities, gifts, potentials, invitations. It really doesn't matter what name you give it, behind the scenes that are coming up that may be a bit uncomfortable for us to see. We may see where we have downplayed who we are, and that may make us angry. Utilizing that energy, remember that anger, joy, love, all of it is energy. Utilizing that energy, becoming the alchemist of whatever you're feeling and applying it to whatever is going on here, so that if need be, if you want to, you can change the situation, because it's that that's going to help you realize you're not your circumstances. You are what you have gained through it. And 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, I'm trying to be gentle here, but no, every time it is a remembrance of who you are. It doesn't matter whether it's healing, relationships, whatever it is you've gone through, whatever it is you've experienced is an opportunity to recognize your own worth and to see yourself through the eyes of your creator, whether that's the earth, whether that's yourself, whether that's God, or whatever that may be. This week, yes, we are being given that opportunity, and on the other side of that, the recognition that sometimes we may not want to see that, the recognition that we may want to focus on what's going on behind us or behind the scenes rather than our reaction or our potential as a result of that. And you know, it's the age-old saying, isn't it? It's not our darkness that we fear, but our light. And being compassionate with that this week, being compassionate with knowing that everything happens at a rate that you're ready for. Everything happens at a time that you are capable of coping with it, even though it may not feel like it. You know, a lot of people, for the majority, are able to deliver whatever it is that's asked of them, whether that's a baby or whatever dreams they have coming to fruition. But recognizing that is at a pace that is comfortable for you. So if you feel you need to break things down this week in order to make it more manageable, that's okay. Find a way that's right for you, but acknowledging we may not see ourselves for the potential that we actually are. We may not see the impact that we actually have, or we may see it through measurements that are no longer applicable, or probably were never applicable to our soul's evolution. Opening up and expanding how we choose to perceive the situation, how we choose to perceive ourselves, and how we choose to perceive our worth as a result this week is going to be key. So on that note, I am going to use the cards. I am going to look into the energies this week on a more separate, individual level, energy-wise. Or at least I'm going to attempt to. So the deck that I'm going to use are the Lightseers Tarot by Chris Ann Donnelly. I met Chris Ann Donnelly in Canada when these first came out. They were part of a I think it was part of a Kickstarter, I can't remember, but I remember buying the deck from Chris Ann Donnelly herself, so the box is a bit tattered now. Incredible artist. I do think she has quite a few accounts, so please check out her accounts, and her work is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I'm tempted to, I can't actually find A Journey of Shadows and Sunshine. I was really tempted to look at the deeper meaning behind the creation. And this week, yeah, that can be a temptation, but it can also be a tool to take forward the deeper meaning behind what is occurring. So Chris Ann writes here, and into the grey we follow like 1,000 flickering stars, and those in a sun, and there in a sunlight hollow we lose, of course, and find what is ours. So part of the there's a lot of archetypal journeys that descend us down to the dark night of the soul, or Persephone when she goes down to the journey with Hades. There's a lot that can be had from journeying into our shadow, but ultimately, and I need to take this on board ourselves, it's about the not just the descent but the coming back up with what we've gained. In the hero's journey, we go out, we don't know what it is we're looking for a teacher, we're looking for these lessons, but ultimately we find out something about ourselves and we bring it back and we apply it. It's in the application of what we've discovered that we really discover. Okay, so it's one thing to understand things, it's another to experience things and heal from them, but it's our actions and how they have been alchemized as a result that bring us full circle. And this week, that is the potential. And that, yes, we can say that we're letting go of this and we're letting go of that, but again, as we go into 2025, there's a lot there about our illusions of letting go and trying to separate endings from beginnings. Endings are always part of the cycle. So when we're thinking about this week in particular, what it is we want to bring in, what are we prepared to let go of as a result? Okay, so really acknowledging the depth and the sacredness of manifestation. What is it you're truly asking for? What is it you now want to step into? Because when we're trying to manifest something, when we've got the Knight of Pentacles at the bottom of the pack, when we're saying this is what I would like to achieve, what we're actually saying is this is the version of myself I'd like to become. We can ask for love, but we're saying we want to become that person that wants love, that would like to have love in their life. When I talk about teaching workshops in an open field or whatever, I see the version of myself that's running those. And I get constantly reminded where I'm not in alignment with that vision. It's one thing to have a vision of what we want. Do we see the version of ourselves that we are invited to become in order to receive that? Now, that's not to say that we're not good enough, but that it's a collaboration, right? It's a constant journey where we learn about ourselves, where we shed our skin, shed our stories, shed who we once were, so that we can then expand into who we are becoming. It's not to say those versions of ourselves never existed or didn't matter. Of course they do. Like the Knight of Pentacles, they are incredible steps along the way, but they are not the vision themselves. So this week, and just like a week or a day or a year, they're not separate from the whole experience. So it doesn't matter when you watch this. It doesn't matter if you're watching it over a portal or a new year or a year down the line or this week or today or whenever it is you're watching this, one moment is not separate from the other. And sometimes, particularly as a Nine of Pentacles, sometimes particularly as a species, humans can kind of get very involved in the outcome and not respect or appreciate the steps in between. And I can really relate, they can be frustrating, especially when they're not what we want. Knowing what we don't want is part of figuring out what we do want, so they're still a necessary component of what we want. When we can feel into that, when we can be in the presence of that, which I acknowledge isn't always easy and is, for me, a work in progress, a love in progress, right? We feel the true abundance of what it is to witness the growth of our vision, to witness the growth of ourselves, to know that in every moment we can reach up and receive what it is we need to keep planting that, to keep reaping the rewards of that vision. Very often, we can get so limited in, I want this one thing, and actually we fail to see the far bigger picture. I think manifestation for the sake of manifestation, for the most part, stopped a long time ago with our awareness of manifestation. It became very more full and embodied. It wasn't just a wriggling of our nose anymore. It was okay, so for that to happen, that has to happen and that has to happen. And we became more consciously aware of our ability to create and become conscious creators. But there's still some area where we, almost as a species, don't allow ourselves to receive that, to appreciate that in each stage. because we're comparing it to the outcome that we want. In the Hermit card, which is the energy we are all stepping into in 2025, I started mine in July, but collectively we're stepping into it in 2025. In the Hermit card, it is the star card, the star of the vision that is held in the lamp. But it isn't that guides us forward, it purely illuminates the path. Okay, it's our ability to carry that vision in every step that we take that carries us forward. Remembering that this week and feeding into things that may start to pop their head in as little ideas, as lightning bolt epiphanies, only if we can make the time for it. And that's the beauty of manifestation, when we can wait and receive. Not only are we having a proper communication with the universe, rather than do, we're allowing that moment to come back. We're allowing that fruit to grow. We're allowing ourselves to, with the Nine of Pentacles, to select what is in front of us. Not only are we allowing that, but we're taking a moment to have space, to think and feel, do I need what it was I needed now? Have I moved on from that? Has my vibration changed from that? Am I still aligned to that? This week we're going to be given moments, and what I would recommend, what I'm seeing is on the 1010 portal, to give yourself time, almost like a moment's silence for yourself. We celebrate a lot of things that have happened externally. We hold space and commemorate a lot of endings and a lot of change that has occurred. Particularly in the Western world, ceremonies are lacking. An opportunity to appreciate the rites of passage that we go through is lacking. So on the 1010 portal, taking a moment to light a candle, to maybe write a letter to your previous self, not so much your future self. This feels very much about holding space for the changes that have occurred, so that we don't keep creating from a place that we're not actually at anymore. A pat on the back. Yeah, a spiritual, my screen just flickered, a spiritual pat on the back on the 1010 portal. Look how far we have come, because particularly collectively we can get so caught up in the things that aren't changing that we can lose sight of what has. And this week that feels really important, to keep that focus. What has changed? We cannot go through all of this and remain the same people. Change is a constant. So it is our perception of what has changed, or what we believe hasn't changed, that is coming under the spotlight this week, because we have the Six of Wands underneath, right? What victories need to be seen? What parts of us now need to be illuminated? Or are we going to stay in the dark night of the soul? Are we going to stay in the descent, where we've let go of everything that we thought we knew, but are feeling quite complacent now? Well, yeah, I've cleared all that, I've healed all that, I've done all that, but not seeing the actual abundance of life that is still available. Should we come back up with everything that we've discovered? Okay, so energies this week and how to best navigate them. It's important not to keep going over the same story. There's a temptation there. You're only going to get the same medicine. You're only going to get the same outcome. It doesn't matter the angle that you take, you're going to get the same view. So sometimes, particularly this week, it could be very beneficial to seek alternative perceptions of what is going on, or perhaps a different way of looking at it. We can often pick those that have the same story and the same narrative as us because it can be comfortable. And I know that came up last week, but it's still there. The energy is still there. Yeah, okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate it. I've been really drawn to look at the gold leaf in front of me on the painting, to really look at the wealth and the abundance that is available, which you're not going to get. We won't get if we carry on looking at things from the same level. If things have become a bit despondent, a bit boring, a bit by looking at it the same way, or looking at the same things, or recreating the same stories because they're comfortable, there's a security there, but at what cost? At what cost? Okay, energies this week. And that does go with some of the big dreams as well. We're about to go into a full moon the following week, I think, in Aries. And there's a real need to balance our dreams realistically. So yeah, even looking at the bigger dreams at the moment can be quite comfortable. We can often go search for things that are way out of our league right now. Because that keeps us safe. We can't get it. Yeah, it can feel so far away that it's almost impossible. Anything is possible, but it's about really, really honing in on that focus. Not getting caught up on the outcome, but the steps towards it. Okay. Anyway, we're going over the same story. So energies this week and how to best navigate them. Yeah. A lot of the miscommunication, a lot of the almost feeling of lack of direction. There isn't a lack of direction. It's a going over the same story. Yeah, it's a going over all the reasons why we can't, going over all the indecisiveness, when actually the focus now is on the fact that we have all these options, all these incredible options. Which one feels right now? Which one emotionally, because it's the Seven of Cups, which one emotionally feels as if it's the one you now want to take? We can get really caught up in the I don't know, I don't have the answers type energy this week. And actually, if we feel into the wisdom that we've gained, and if we feel into the person that we've become as a result, the answers are there. They may have changed, and it could be that we're not quite ready to embrace or face, and that could be leading some conflict and some indecisions, because we're still believing that we're perhaps someone that we're not. Okay, so really looking at this week, where is the indecisiveness? Is it in the relationships? Is it in the steps forward, or what it is we want? Or is it in how we see ourselves? Ooh. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There is a peacefulness and a humour and power and guidance and support and doubt of it all. Should I be feeling this peaceful when I don't know what I'm doing? Should I be feeling this relaxed when there's uncertainty? Or am I procrastinating? Or am I disassociating? A lot of external views, a lot of inherited views of what alignment feels like is going to come to the surface this week. And I almost feel like I want to look again at what's underneath it all. So this week, keep really looking at what's going on underneath it all for you. And it's that Seven of Cups. A lot of indecisiveness based on who we believe ourselves to be. So on the Monday with the King of Cups, tuning into what we feel. It's really as simple as that. It doesn't matter if it's tarot cards or channeling or runes or plant medicine or whatever tools you use. If you do not know what you feel, you are going to be disassociated from whatever messages are coming through. If you do not hone in to your emotional, intuitive awareness and base your actions on that, it's going to feel confusing. You may be in a place emotionally that you don't believe you're in. You may be more calm with what is going on than you feel you should be. Based on what? What are you basing your emotions on? Are you allowing yourself to just feel them for the truth that they are? Or do they have to have this story in order for them to be true? On the Monday, go with the flow. On the Monday, know that your flow is different from everybody's flow. Everyone has a unique way of moving with their emotions. Everyone has a unique creative sound. You can see here he's doing the sound bowls. Don't be a saxophone if you're a guitar. Okay, find your rhythm, find your vibration, and sing from that place emotionally. Don't make yourself something that you're not in order to fit in. On the Monday, that's really key, because all of your actions need to be based on an intuitive level this week. Well, always. But I'm going to keep that focus coming back, and that feels quite important, to keep the focus coming back. So you can see King of Cups, very emotional, very intuitive, but also very focused, by closing his eyes to what's going on in front of him and coming home to the sound that resonates with him. regardless of whatever healing we do or whatever ceremonies we do or whatever medicine we use, for me personally, whoever comes to see me and for my own practices, at the very center of it all is harmony. The body knows what to do provided it's in harmony. So if you're feeling that, oh my God, I don't know, with the Seven of Cups and that indecisiveness, you're out of harmony. You're out of alignment with yourself and your own truth. So what can you do, particularly on the Monday, to bring that back? Bring yourself back home to who you are. Bring yourself back to how you feel. You can do it. They're not too big. They're your feelings, bit by bit, at a rate that's comfortable for you. Focus and go within to find the answers on the Monday. On the Tuesday, we have the Five of Cups, and there is a level of grief here, but it's almost allowing the grief to go. So a lot of the grief comes from a life that we haven't lived. A lot of the grief comes from being inauthentic to our emotions, from not being true to who we are, and anything that as a result, whether that's relationships or work or our purpose, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of the grief comes from not being aligned to who we actually are in authenticity. And on the Tuesday, come the Monday, if we can do that on the Tuesday, there are going to be, okay, I need to let that go. That's not actually who I am. For myself, okay, so I'm not this person that can't hold space for these raging emotions that I'm just a slave to. They're not too big for me. Okay, you know, those stories, allowing them to go back to the earth and recognizing that a lot of the stories are from the earth as well. We can get really, really caught up in the individualism of things sometimes, and that can leave us almost stuck, unable to move forward. But I know with emotions, yes, it's my story, but it's also a story of my mother's and her mother's, and just allowing these to go back into the earth now, to give them back to Pachamama, to say, okay, maybe I'm not that person anymore. I let that person go. Show me. Today I wanted to connect to the plant medicine oracle, and the only way I could actually do that was to not be a person. There was a real limitation of me as a person trying to connect to the medicine of plants. So I had to, in meditation, just sit there and let go of the fact that I'm a person and expand my awareness beyond my identity. And that's this week, that's what that's all about. Okay, so it's not about seeing just the individual picture. It's not about not seeing it either, but it's not about seeing just the individual picture, expanding ourselves beyond how we choose to perceive who we are. Because on the Wednesday, yeah, that's when we welcome in that first major arcana, the Star card. And I had to check on the Wednesday, is that the only like fate energy I'm going to get? Do I have to act on the Wednesday? On the Wednesday, it's the Star card. Okay, so it's about recognizing that we're calling down that vision to go through us, that we are the vision and that the vision is us. Okay, so holding on to that, not clinging to it, holding on to it and allowing that to guide us wherever we may find ourselves on the Wednesday. Is there anything else to add on the Wednesday? 8, 9, it'll be the 9th. It does feel like we can find reason on the Wednesday for why we feel what we feel, why we want what we want, and that can be really encouraging, right? That can be really encouraging. The greater good. Yeah, I want to do this because it's going to help this person, that person, or I want to have this relationship because I have so much love to give, and da 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 da. And they can be really encouraging to have that calling, that purpose, that energy behind us. Ensure that it is encouraging. Ensure that we are having reasons for what we want to keep supporting us rather than because we don't believe it. Now, there's a very fine line with that, isn't there? All encouragement helps us to believe. So ensuring on the Wednesday, if we're going to seek further information, that it supports us as the holder of the vision, not just the vision itself. It has to be in balance. What we're trying to manifest has to be in balance, and it has to work for our life as well. Thank you. Yeah, there's a little bit of long-windedness on the Wednesday. There's a little bit of long-windedness on the Wednesday because there's an avoidance underneath it all of recognizing that we too are part of the greater good, that our dreams and our desires are part of the greater good as well, and it's that needs to be included on the Wednesday. But knowing that we'll get there, we get there eventually. It's a process. On the Wednesday, it's a process. On the Thursday, we have the Queen of Wands. So the Thursday is the 1010 portal, and the energy that's coming through, it's almost like I want to say like a comet. So who knows? But almost like an energy, like a comet, it's like a Halley's comet, like a once in a lifetime opportunity on the Thursday. And what it is, it's almost like the tail end of this strength energy of this year. Now, obviously, we still have a few months left, but from Thursday onwards, things are going to start to shift and change into that more hermit-like energy. Yes, we're still going to need the strength card, and we're still going to need that strength and that vision to continue, particularly when things are ending that we may not have expected were ending. But remember, on the Thursday, it's all about showing us, reminding us who we are, nurturing our spirit, our ambition, our drive, our light. It may not feel like it on the Thursday, but it's all about helping us to step into the light that we came here to be. Don't be surprised if there's a few epiphanies, provided we can make the space for it on the Thursday. Don't be surprised if there's a few outbursts, okay? So being wary of that as well. Don't be surprised on the Thursday if there's a bit of a jolt from the cosmos. I want to say the cosmos, and it does feel very cosmological. Don't be surprised if the portal doesn't help us realize, where we may not quite be nurturing the light that we are. Is there anything else on the Thursday? There's a need for peace. There's a need to make space. There's a need to, even though it may feel as if we want to go, there's a need to allow our body to catch up, allow our body to integrate any messages that are coming through, a remembrance that our body is the portal also, allowing things to shift and to move through us on the Thursday. Thursday will probably be a really good day for a rites of passage, as I've said before, to light a candle. And there almost feels like there's a collective thing that could be going on the Thursday as well. Candles being lit everywhere, to light a candle for all the changes that have happened and for the changes that we wish to happen also. It feels like an end of an era on the Thursday, even though it's the Queen of Wands. And it's vibrant and it's alive. There's also the feeling of an end of an era. And again, that's going back to that, and I'm aware that I'm making an assumption here. It's going almost back to that feeling of, this is who I thought I was. This is how I thought it was going to be. This is actually what's coming through. And even if that's better than we imagined, there's still an end of an era to the version of ourselves that has got us this far, and that needs recognition and respect from us. On the Friday, we have our second major arcana, which is the Keeper of the Sacred. Yes, a need to lighten things up, absolutely, but also a recognition that so far that version of ourselves has been the keeper of our potential. Has been the sacred version of ourselves that, we can often berate parts of ourselves that don't quite feel ready or that question our ability or whatever. But actually that version of us is, a dear friend of mine said the other day, just looking out for us, right? Just looking out for us, keeper of the sacred, knowing that our light is precious and just wanting us to have a little bit more compassion for the process. Recognizing the steps that we're taking, knowing where we're going, smiling, enjoying it, rather than being so dogmatic on the Friday that this is how it has to be. We can have that moment of enlightenment, we can have that clear vision on the Wednesday, on the Thursday, this is what I need to do, and on the Friday, this is how it needs to be. Remember to remain flexible on the Friday, to lighten up, to have some fun, to not lose sight of the fact that it is a collaboration, okay? To have some humor in the whole process, to not get caught up too much in how we think something should be, because again, what we're doing is we're limiting our perception of ourselves and the situation. On the Saturday, that can bring a little bit of mindfuckery coming through. So I don't know about anyone else, but when you have a moment of ascension or waking up or whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, or when something really big shifts in our life, we change, right? We feel that change. And as we're integrating that change, our ego, our inner child, again, whatever name you want to call it, our old self, whatever, says, don't know how I feel about that. Don't think it's a good idea. Don't think I should do this. And it will give all these, and we can end up in conflict mentally because we have the next version, the next step of who we are, and this older version that doesn't want to go. So it's not about pushing one to one side and ignoring or anything. Bring every aspect of ourselves along. There's no reason why we have to, when we shed our stories, get rid of parts. What we're doing is we're bringing them home. I used to be a midwife. I will always be a midwife. A lot of what I do when in regards to healing or readings or whatever will be very midwifery based, in the view that it's creativity, right? And the stages of that creativity. So it's more on the Saturday, not about getting rid of things, but honing in on what you can take forward from it, what's similar to the vision that you have. So yeah, I didn't realise that midwives were medicine women. So when I think about my future views of how I would like my life to be, becoming a midwife kind of makes sense now. It didn't at the time, but it kind of does. So recognizing that every step you take is part of the bigger vision. It's not about getting rid of it all. Bring forth that more honed version of you. So we're walking along. Yeah, we're not chucking away the old version. We're just getting rid of that layer of skin and that layer of skin. But underneath it all, what ran through it all, was this version of yourself that you're seeing more of. Every version of our life has known who we are. It may not feel like it. We may think, oh yeah, but I've been confused, so how could I know? That confusion has helped you realize what it is you want. So everything that has happened in our life has helped us to remember who we are. They're all guided by that energy. What we're letting go of is the stories, not ourselves. I see a lot of people that will come for healings that want to get rid of parts of their shadow, and all that leads to is holy cheese. Yeah, all that leads to is taking chunks of ourselves out, and in that space we make space for versions of ourselves that aren't true, or other energies or other stories. It's about bringing all these parts of ourselves back now without the stories, or at least with stories that can enhance us. On the Saturday, that can be a bit difficult if we get caught up in the mindfuckery. If we get caught up in the how we think things should be. I thought I dealt with this. I don't want to be that version of myself. I don't want to da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Heads up. Acceptance of yourself on all levels is what's going to bring you the path forward, that new beginning. And that doesn't mean you have to accept how things are, but accepting yourself is the first key to letting go of all of this ego-driven, when I get this I'll be better, when I do this I'll be better, when I have this da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because what that does is take us out of the moment, and that's where that grief at the beginning of the week really starts to ramp up, because we're not living the life that we want. But it's not about external factors, it's about we're not being authentic to where we are in that moment. Saturday feels deep. Okay, it does feel as if we can get really in our mind. So again, it's that focus thing. What's in the background here? Yeah, that version of himself that has shed blood, that has, released, bloodletting, has had the ritual, has had the ceremony, has released all of that, but is stood in the background going, I'm over here. I've always been over here, just waiting for you to get out of your head, get back into your body, and move forward as guided emotionally and intuitively this week. Because that on the Sunday is the new beginning, the Ace of Pentacles. But you can see here that this Ace of Pentacles has almost been picked up too early. It's got no roots. I hear that song, I've got no roots in my home. It's got no roots. Okay, so what roots? At the end of all of this week, when you've felt your emotions and you've grieved what you thought your life was going to be about, and you've realigned to who you are and the vision, and you've become more determined in what it is that you want, and you've gathered all of the lessons, and you've gone through the mindset that says that you can't do it. Okay, so now we're back to the original seed, the original desire, the original manifestation, the original version of you. what roots, and this is where I can't help but smile, what roots do you need to remain centered in that? You know, to remain strong in that, to remain true to that. What roots do you need? What support do you need to help you to remember that in everything that you then manifest as a result? Things are going to be different after the portal, things, or at least they have the potential. What we do with that right is entirely up to us, just like this video, just like any information out there. What we do with the information we're given emotionally this week is entirely up to us, but we are being encouraged to let go of what we thought the vision of ourselves and what we're trying to manifest actually is, so that we can really feel the light of it and embrace that and nurture it for the higher good that it is, with ourselves included. Only from stepping into that energy, the vision would have seen what it wanted from us. Yeah, whatever we're trying to create would have known what it needed, and it picked us. So by the end of the week, provided we can see ourselves in the eyes of whatever it is we're trying to create, there's a new beginning there. Because we're not creating it from here and the vision being up here. We're creating it from here. We're creating it from alignment. Okay, so 2 major arcanas this week, the Star card and the Hierophant. How sacred is our vision? How willing are we to expand beyond our view of it and to really open ourselves up to receive that vision this week? We then have 2 cup cards, well 3 if you count the 7 of cups, and it feels important to count the indecisions. It feels important to be aware of them because they're showing us where we're trying to control things. Interesting. Yeah, expanding, right? When we expand and when we receive, we might just get something that just clicks everything into place, like that just has to me. So wherever you're feeling those indecisions, what are you trying to control? Because if we really feel into what's going on for us, there aren't indecisions. We feel what the next step is and what the next step is, because this is how we work with the universe. It's how we've always worked, and everyone can do it. We have feelings, okay? So without the stories of them, if we're unsure, what's controlling us? Oh, should I do that? I don't know if I can afford it. Money. Oh, I don't know if I can get into this relationship because what if they did stories. What are we trying to control? Where do we feel unsafe? What needs our focus because it's not quite there? Yeah? Okay, then we have 1 wand card, 1 sword card and 1 pentacle card. So we have a little bit more emotional energy this week, but what that is, it's not just our emotions, it's a psyche emotion, because we have the same amount of energy with the major arcanas. So we have a bit more intuitive collective wisdom coming in this week for us to work with. Our spirit and our drive, we have 1 card. Our thoughts, we have 1 card, and our physical actions, we have 1 card. So they're all in balance. So recognizing when we get that, oh, I'd quite like that, it's just a beginning. It's the Queen of Wands, but it's just a beginning. It's an opportunity to nurture it, not question it. Oh yeah, but this will never happen. Da, 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 da. What we've taken, can you see, when you have an idea, you have that little glimmer, that little flame of a candle. With all of those ideas, what you're doing, if they're air, yeah, you're blowing them out. Our thoughts are air. Our ideas, our creative inspiration are fire. So it's okay to have a view of something, but be mindful where those views, those stories, those opinions, those judgments are starting to blow something out before it's even started. That could be the physical action this week. When we have that idea, that inspiration, that synchronicity, that lightning bolt moment, that feeling even, where's our head at with those 5 of Swords? What are our stories doing to that? Are they supporting them? Are they holding space for what we're experiencing? Are they doing so with curiosity and a bit of humor and lightness, or are they blowing it out before it's even started? Because that could very well be why the idea has no roots. That could very well be why the actions are unclear, because emotionally we're totally discombobulated by overthinking this week. It's an opportunity to look at how well we nurture our own creativity, how well we nurture our own spirituality, and the impact that our mind has on that based on how we see ourselves. Now, 44 minutes. I was going to do one card, but what I'm going to do is one plant card, because these are just incredible energy. And heads up, the plants are really going to come forth in the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months, to guide us forward. There's going to be a lot there about, so a plant will teach us about its medicine, but it doesn't necessarily have to be ingested to do so. And there's a real big story collectively coming to the surface with that. You know, a friend of mine was talking about, we have sage at the bottom, and I'm going to use the sage card. A friend of mine was talking the other day about people that were going on ayahuasca journeys and having 6 or 7 of them a year, knowing how long it takes to grow ayahuasca. And the medicine underneath that message for me personally was about keeping it in balance. And with the plants coming to the surface in the next 6 to 9 months, there's really going to be an impact there of knowing that we don't have to ingest all of these lessons, all of these experiences, all of these plants. We don't have to take things from the earth in order to connect to her wisdom. Okay, and the card that's at the bottom is sage, and you know, ethically, for sage to be sourced, growing our own rather than taking it from other places. You know, there's a real need to be more conscious, particularly when it comes to manifestation, particularly when it comes to our ideas. And it's not about not having them, it's not about, you know, a scarcity, it's more of a respect. It's more of recognizing that we have our end of the bargain as well, work to be done our end as well. You know, it's not a quick fix, spirituality, creativity, and I have to be mindful of my own stuff here, but it's not a quick fix. And you know, when we try and rush through things, whether it's manifestation, whether it's healing, whatever it may be, we're saying, I don't like it the way it is, there's no acceptance there, and I want it to be this way. And there's a lot of judgment and opinions there. So taking a step back with the guidance of sage this week, you know, growing, taking time to grow, taking time to cleanse, and seeing that as a blessing. So often we see growth or healing or whatever, lessons even, as hard work, as painful, because we're focusing on what we want and focusing on where we don't want to be. If we could see it as a whole experience, how much we're learning about ourselves and how incredible the world is. You know, if there's something out there writing the script of it all, it's a pretty clever producer of every little step that these things take for us to be where we are. If we could see the beauty of it, then potentially we could see the beauty of ourselves as part of that also. So sage, number 6. Let's have a look. Let's see if I can do so without my glasses on. Talk about focus. Okay, blessing, purification, sacred gift, spiritual cleansing, resembling emotional body and mystical sight. So that then talks about sage. It's ruled by the moon, vibrationally powerful plant, deeply influences the electromagnetic field, rules the gut, sharpens our gut feeling and intuitive gateways, and heals the gastrointestinal tract. So being very aware of things this week that have helped us to really hone in and trust our gut, that have helped us to really feel into the field around us, the energies around us. Sage, like the moon card in the tarot, is the great portal to the river of life. The silver light of sage grants us the power of insight while we navigate the darkest hours. The lunar powers of sage remind us to look inwards to receive visionary insight from spirit. Don't get overly consumed by the emotional interplay. Allow it to pass like the clouds. Draw upon the inner reserves of your psyche to navigate darkness and become keenly aware of what is causing inner disturbances, fear and unhappiness. The initiation you are undergoing, although unfamiliar, is a great blessing. Feel yourself cease and reassemble as you break illusions to unearth hidden truths. Surrender. Don't stand in your own way. Allow the silvery white light of sage to shatter illusions as you undergo a great awakening. And underneath it all this week, there is the wisdom and the knowledge that we are not separate from what we are hoping for. We are not separate from the world we are trying to create. We are not separate from the plants or the tarot cards or the energies that are going on. We are part of it. The sooner we can realize that and recognize our worth in the greater scheme of things, the easier things are going to get from the end of this year onwards, potentially. Of course, the rest is up to us. Take care, and I'll see you next week.